Hi everyone. We now are going to talk about how we measure support needs so that way we can match up appropriate supports and know what folks need based on their support needs. And there is one measure, the Supports and Needs Intensity Scale or Supports Intensity Scale, that it's the only standardized measure currently available to help measure support needs so we can appropriately match supports to adaptive behavior deficits. So the Supports Needs Intensity Scale looks at life activity, self-advocacy, self-determination, and exceptional supports to maintain or improve any medical difficulties an individual may have. We're going to watch a video now that shows you about what the SIS is, so that way you guys get a better understanding of what it is and how it might be used with individuals with intellectual disability.
I'd like to interview you about what my dreams and my goals were, and I accomplished one, and that is living out in the community into a whole new world. It's been a great experience. For one reason, it's because the person that we do serve, they have the opportunity to be involved in their own life. And I think that's an awesome thing.
I think this is when you ask open-ended questions, say what are your goals and dreams rather than what can you do. I think it opens up the individual to really be able to talk about things that they previously thought they could never talk about.
I mean, I've just seen some amazing results. They become independent. They become self-sufficient. You know, they're able to actually do things that they didn't realize that they could, and they can just build on that, and it just, you know, it avalanches.
And I really like it, and I like to be free.
Hi, my name is Natalie Illy, and I'm here to help you learn more about the Supports Intensity Scale and prepare you for the interview. The Supports Intensity Scale, oftentimes referred to as the SIS, is designed to help learn more about the supports you need to be successful in a number of environments in our community. The focus is different than other assessments. It does not focus on deficits or inabilities, and it's completed by a number of team members or support people in your life that will help you to be successful.
So one of the things about this assessment, they call it a semi-structured assessment. And what that means is we just are really going to have a conversation. And what my job is to get enough information from you to know what rating is the right rating to use. Tracy, do you have...
pass or fail?
You don't fail. You cannot possibly fail. No pass or fail. This is all talking about, really, it's all about you being successful. So it's really all about passing. So it's all figuring out what it would take, what kind of supports it would take for you to be successful.
The SIS is based around success at accomplishing everyday activities and future goals and the supports needed to achieve them.
My goal is do my budget and go to the library once a month, and then my other goal was learn how to cook and stuff.
I need to work on money, and that's my huge weak link.
It's pretty much a bit of future planning where you look at the person, talk to the person, see how their goals have changed, and then go into the meeting and see what supports would be needed from your experience for that person to be successful in their goals.
Human nature is such that the more a person feels like that they contribute, the more that a person feels like that they're a valued part of society or a valued part of the event, directly relates to that person's self-esteem, how they view themselves. We feel significant when we contribute. And whether you have a developmental disability or not, that's basic human nature, that encourages independence, that encourages a feeling of self-worth. So when the SIS isolates the minimal supports that somebody needs to be involved in an activity, and yet allows that person to contribute as much as they're able to, and at the end of the day be successful at it, there's a tremendous amount of empowering that comes with that.
When you're getting ready for the interview, it's important to set aside at least a couple of hours. It's also important that you discuss with your team members, or oftentimes called respondents, what you're going to be talking about. A respondent is a caregiver, a family member, guardian, advocate, even a case manager. Good friends also that know you well make great respondents. It's helpful to have the Supports Intensity Scale form prior to the interview, so you'll have a chance to look over the form and be prepared to answer the questions. Make sure you bring any assistive technology or aids with you to the interview. Everybody in the meeting should also be open-minded. Oftentimes there's items that aren't relevant to your life right now, but it's important that all the items be answered.
Preparing for an interview if you're a respondent is really minimal effort, but it's really time well spent. Preparing to think about the individual and being open to think about the individual in ways that you've never thought about the person before. Perhaps they're currently not employed, but what would that look like? Perhaps they're currently not in a learning environment, but what would that look like if they were? And so it's really the job and the task of that respondent to really come to that meeting with an open mind, willing to think in terms that are outside of the box for this person.
Every item your interviewer asks will involve 3 ratings: type of support, frequency, and daily support time. Type of support includes what kind of support you need. Frequency is how often you need the support. And daily support time is how much support you need in a 24-hour period.
Really here you're looking at the nature of support. Is it minimal? Is it any at all? Is it verbal gestural prompting? Is it partial physical assistance where some of the steps are having to be done for the person? Or is it full? Then you capture how frequently that support would be needed if they were going to be engaged in that particular activity over the next several months. And then finally, you're gauging, okay, when the support happens, how long is it taking in a typical 24-hour period if you were to add it all together? So that with these 3 components, type of support, frequency, daily support time, you get this same type of walkthrough of this rating key for every item that really fills in the gap of what would be needed to move an individual from where they currently may be to doing an activity and participating and being involved like anybody else of relative age, typical adult in the community, which is really what we want to hone in as the definition of support.
The Supports Intensity Scale also has personal items. These items can be very sensitive for individuals, so it's important that you have people around you that support you, but also know that it's okay to ask those folks to leave if you'd rather answer those questions on your own. Your interviewer will help you through those items, and some examples include using the restroom, hygiene, intimate relationships, and even support with inappropriate behaviors.
Helping the individual be a part of the meeting to the fullest of their ability is real important, and sometimes that requires a little bit of pre-work. If the individual has problems hearing, or they need a communication device, or the environment needs to be set up in a certain way, it requires a little bit of pre-work in order to make that interview go well and to be as beneficial as it possibly can for the person. Whatever those things are, it's time well spent, and it's valuable to consider those things prior to having the meeting, because the meeting needs to be a place where everybody can talk and everybody can participate in a place that's comfortable and everybody feels safe communicating.
Remember, to have a great interview, set aside enough time, have people around you that support you and know you well, and stay open-minded.
And listen, be a good listener to what the individual is saying, and to learn more about the person, even though it may be a family member. You know, a lot of times they have not had the opportunity to have their voice heard.
So one of the things that we've been able to do is tailor people's wishes, desires, and goals that have largely been formulated out of the SIS into person-centered planning.
It really does help when you're going through the SIS and you see that
there's things that my sister could do that I really didn't think she could do. I was doing a lot of it for her. And then finding if they could provide a ride here or somebody to monitor her in her apartment, then I didn't have to worry about it. And it took her to another level of being independent.
I would say I see my sister as having her own interests, making some of her own choices, and she's happy with making her own choices from time to time. Giving her opportunities to do various things in the community, I see her functioning as any other adult.
I like to learn more so I can learn in the book and stuff and read a letter when somebody writes me and all that stuff. I want to do all that.
Look just at the person's desires, goals, their heart really, their heart's cry, rather than at any ability or disability level.
I feel happy, I feel great, and accomplish everything I've done in the past or present or in the future. I feel sometimes emotional, sometimes up and down, roller coaster, but sometimes I can be really, really happy.
So hopefully you guys, that video really helped you guys get a sense for what the SIS is and how it's used to help with support planning, really understanding the person's needs, and really how it talks about, from this person-centered planning approach, what an individual wants. You guys, you know, all of us are more likely to do something if it's something we want to do, something we value, if it's helping us achieve a certain goal or something that, again, aligns with our values and our long-term goals. I think it's also really important that through these things, putting the person at the center of it. I mean, you saw that one family member say, I didn't even know my sister could do these things. And that takes also stress off that person, and maybe they'll need less respite care as a caregiver. So the SIS really, really helps us understand what other individual supports needs, and then you can choose supports appropriately. So I want you guys to think, what's the difference between support need and adaptive behavior? And when you're, there we go. And how are they measured differently? So, I mean, they're both, the same. We both are focusing on, they're the same in that they're measured pretty similarly, in that they're both concerned with typical performance and everyday activities. We're not looking for exceptionalities here, just how, what people need. What are your adaptive behavior needs? And they really go hand in hand. Adaptive behavior, though, they're different because an adaptive behavior measures what somebody has already learned, what they've achieved. And our support needs help us understand where the gaps are based on adaptive behavior deficits. And so support needs measure extraordinary supports that are needed to participate in daily activities, and it gives us a skill profile that an individual will need. So again, an example of the difference with adaptive behavior, that's measuring what an individual has already achieved, and the SIS is used hand in hand with measures of adaptive behavior that allows us a skill profile that what they do need to be able to accomplish, and then can link to specific supports. But both should be used in concert when we're support need planning. All right, supports in adult employment. Your book talks about this model of human performance technology. And when we think about technology, it's not necessarily tech as in like computers in that way. It's just some type of support that's in place, some type of physical support or information or knowledge that can really help level the playing field for an individual. and mediate that gap in support needs. So the first type is an organizational system. And organizational systems are laws or public policies that offer incentives to establish industry standards for contracting and with individuals that have disabilities, or remodeling places of employment so people are allowed equal access. So the organizational system in place involves the laws and public policies that allow supports to occur and allow for individuals with disabilities to be employed. Incentives, this is things that, allow people incentive to work. So maybe developing a behavioral contract involving positive reinforcement, increasing opportunities to engage in preferred activities as a result of earning more money because of job performance. Cognitive supports, these are just ways that help our brain when we have cognitive deficits. So reminders to transition, lists, checklists, some type of schedule for an individual so they can remember parts of their job when they're employed. Tools, these are any type of physical tool. So this could be an augmentative communication device, a calendar system, wheelchair, canes, any type of physical tool. Changes in the physical environment, this could be providing an individual with fewer distractions, or lowering filing cabinets, or reorganizing the individual's physical environment to best meet their support needs so they can be be successful at work. Skills and knowledge, this is teaching someone. So this is teaching a person how to do their job. Sometimes, video self-modeling or social stories can help them when preparing for understanding certain parts of their job, but this is the teaching component, how to do their job. And then inherent ability is using an individual's intrinsic motivation, making sure we match jobs relative to their strengths and maybe not their weaknesses, or using it to kind of using their strengths to help build competencies or weaknesses, or build areas of competency that they struggle with so they can be successful. And this is really key in understanding support needs and gets back to that person-centered planning. What is this person good at? So if a person isn't really social, maybe they shouldn't be placed in a coffee shop or in an environment where they have to interact with people. If they are really social, then again, using their strengths in that area and their already inherent ability to make them successful in their places of employment. So we have a 5-component planning process for assessing, planning, and delivering supports. And your book outlines that, but we'll talk about it a little bit here too. So the first one is identifying desired life experiences and goals. So again, using person-centered planning, we want to focus on the person's dreams, their interests, their preferences. What do they want to do? Do they want a job? What type of job do they want? Do they want to earn money so they can have access to more leisure activities? It's important that when we identify individuals' life experiences and goals, we can't always do absolutely everything that we want maybe at any given point in time. We have to have short-term and long-term goals, but making sure that when we do this piece, it's not constrained by fiscal responsibilities. And again, we need to make sure that we're taking into account things that are currently favorable and will maintain, and add elements that will enhance their future, so things that will need to change. And this can be kind of difficult to navigate because what we always want out of our life experiences and goals may not be feasible at a certain part of time, but it's important not to ignore them. Maybe try to then take that information and say, okay, well, what can we do? If someone, say wants to, an individual says, I want to travel to Europe, so I want to make money to do that. And you might think, well, what type of job do they have? How can they appropriately save for that? Figuring out what it is about that trip maybe to Europe that why is it that they want to do there? And maybe you can find something that maybe isn't exactly the same but comparable. So they like to travel and experience new things. How can you then use that information to help set goals for them that might be more attainable at that point in time? With maybe long-term, maybe that's something with giving them some skills and opportunity for other jobs so they could earn money to be able to do that. Then we need to assess their support needs. So using the SIS, the Supports Intensity Scale, or any method that is useful, but making sure the critical information is to understand the nature of the extraordinary supports that a person would require to engage successfully in a wide range of activities and have access to a bunch of activities within their local community. And making sure, again, that we really use a person-centered planning approach. We want to develop then and implement the individualized plan. So once we make the plan, so we understand what they want, we understand their support needs, we want to build on these things and develop an individualized plan. This really, once we have the plan, it shifts into the now and action. And we need to prioritize since we can't address everything all at once. So we want to know, what are we going to try to do first? And then it also should include the setting and the intensity and whom will help carry this plan out. And then it's, in progress. We want to monitor it. We know that we may not hit the nail on the head every single time, and we may need to go back to the drawing board. So we need to monitor our progress. Was our plan implemented as it was envisioned, with a certain intensity? And we need to monitor it and making sure it's being carried out with fidelity. And fidelity means, was it carried out how it was supposed to? And if not, you may need to go back and reassess some of these pieces if things aren't working. And that really gets into the evaluation piece. So were things realized? Did they happen? Also making sure that we understand that preferences and life, experiences and goals and support needs, those can change over time. So recognizing that this is a fluid process and it doesn't have to necessarily move in this stepwise fashion. So here are some different types of individualized plans. The first one is service plans and support plans. So service plans are means for organizing and delivering supports, instructions, and therapies. Important to note that service planning should focus on the type of services that need to be accessed and the scope of involvement of the provider, so down to the hours. And you'll really see this when you look at the DD waiver. It'll talk about billable units and what's the cap for the amount of time that a service can be provided. It's important that we understand that service planning is not a substitute for support planning. Planning teams need to identify services an individual needs to access, but this is not the same as developing that pattern and intensity of specific supports a person needs that is consistent with their preferences. The plan just puts it into action. We still need to understand their support needs, and a service plan helps execute that. Achievement plans and support plans, they're a prominent part of individualized education plans or IEPs and individualized written rehabilitation plans. Support plans do not necessarily have long-term goals and objectives that specify milestones that need to be hit, but support plans identify the resources and strategies that will be used to help bridge the gap between their challenges and the life experiences and opportunities. Our achievement plans really help lie out some goals for us and really hold us accountable. And the focus is on learning and achieving goals. And you'll have specific goals outlined, and then the service plan specifically will help lie out what are the services that are needed. So achievement plans kind of take service planning a step further and lay out the goals in there. And then we'll look and you'll track progress within an achievement and a support plan that will target skill acquisition and mastery. And as that happens, then if you hit the target, make the goal a little bit bigger and a little more lofty. And then if they don't meet the goals, take a step back, evaluate, why wasn't it met? Was there something not in the support plan or service plan, or in the service plan rather, that just didn't work well? Did we not really understand this person's abilities, or things that they're not able to do, or things they're willing to work for? And then reset some new goals. So not meeting a goal isn't necessarily bad, but it's important not to just move on, but to think about, why didn't it work? And so I want to leave you guys with this whole idea that we've talked about support planning, and I really like this visual because I really think it helps us understand the difference between equality and equity. Equality aims to promote fairness and justice, but it can only work if everyone starts at the same place and everyone needs the same thing. And we know that for individuals with disabilities, and for the purposes of our course, developmental and intellectual disabilities, that's not the same. Everyone doesn't start at the same place. Individuals with intellectual disability, as a product of having their disability, we have deficits in cognitive and adaptive behaviors relative to typically or neurotypical individuals. So equality isn't enough. We can't just give everyone the same, because then it's not, we really want to focus on this whole idea of equity rather than equality. So equity is the means, equality is the outcome. Everyone should have the chance to be successful, but we need to make sure we're giving people what they need based on their areas of difficulty. So when we look at this first graphic here, are equality and maximum human functioning achieved? Is everyone starting from the same place? Again, we've given all three of these individuals the same block to be able to see over this fence. And in this first one, we're giving everyone the same thing, but was equality achieved? And it absolutely wasn't, because this first person still can't see. It wasn't enough. This second person, it was great. They probably wouldn't have been able to see over the fence without this block. And this third person, you can see where they were starting. They didn't need a support all to begin with. So again, equality was not achieved here. In this second one, equity is achieved. Supports are directly matched to these individual support needs. This person needs a little bit more, this less, and this one didn't need a support in this area in any way, shape, or form. But they're all able to see over the fence in the same way. Again, in this one, this person was able to see better than the other two people, and this person, again, equity was afforded to that person, but this person still can't see. And in this last one, again, we're giving everyone the same again. So we're like, okay, well, if everyone needs 2, if this person needs 2, let's give everyone 2. Again, if we give everyone 2, then again, we still haven't achieved equality. It's more equal because everyone can see over the fence, but is it based on their support needs? And so I want you guys, this is really going to be the focus for your discussion question for this week, is thinking about using this visual to understand why we can't just give everyone the same, because we're not achieving equality. We want to make sure that everyone has the same vantage point and afforded the same experiences. And support planning doesn't mean giving someone an unfair advantage. It's giving them what they need to level the playing field and to be able to see over the fence. So you guys are going to think about this and think about the DD waiver and why it's important. I hope you guys have enjoyed this and it's helped you guys understand the importance of support planning for our population. It's so critical when understanding intellectual disabilities. As always, any questions, let me know, and we will talk to you guys later. Thanks so much.